The reason they like reading my stuff is that I've always got real life examples to prove what I'm saying.
There's a lot of good people that listen to this podcast.
Other than God and my family, deer hunting would be next in line on my list of priorities.
From the bottom of our hearts, it's just fantastic and awesome to have the support that you guys are getting.
People ask me about expandable broadheads and love swings.
Chasing Giants with Don Higgins and Terry Peer. Brought to you by Osseo Camo, nature's most lethal camouflage. Follow along as Don and Terry discuss the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails.
Welcome, everyone, to the Chasing Giants podcast, episode 192, and this is going to air on October 22nd. Don, we're closing in on the end of October. The famous October lull is about over, and we're getting into pre-rut stage very soon. Soon after that, the rut. What's been going on in the deer woods? Let's just start off with that.
Well, you know what? The weather for October has been about as good as any October that I remember. We had a hot spell, I think, there at the beginning, but we've had at least two cold fronts come through. The temperature here around my place has been, the highs have been less than 70 degrees, more than they've been over 70 degrees. We got another cold front and rain coming this week. Next weekend, the highs are supposed to be in the 50s. For October, I mean, I can't recall another October when the weather was this good. The big negative, in my opinion, at least in my part of the world, the state of Illinois, is we just don't have the mature bucks that we did. And I'm talking even a couple years ago. The deer herd is hurting big time. And if you're on a good property or in a good area, you may not be seeing it. But I'm telling you, overall, I've got cameras over enough miles that I'm telling you that the mature bucks are not there. I don't remember. Did I report last week that I'd seen Babe from a stand and he went the wrong direction? I don't remember if that was.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know what we've talked about on air and not off air. So just in case, why don't you go ahead and recap it?
So I don't remember what day it was, but I had Babe come out, and I think I did talk about this last week, but he came out of the switchgrass, and he was at about 40, 50 yards, and instead of coming towards me, he went away. I also talked about the video that we released on the Whitetail Master Academy, where I went over my buck inventory from all my cameras all over the place, all the bucks I got pictures of all summer long and early fall, and I showed some young up and comers. Well, my number one up and comer buck, who has the potential, he's not 200 inches now, but he has the potential to possibly do it in the next couple of years. I had him at 20 yards yesterday and got some. I didn't get as much footage of him as I did Babe when he came out, but I got probably 2 minutes maybe of footage of that good up and comer, and he's going to be something special. But the activity this week didn't seem to be near as good as it was the week before. And I talked to my friend Justin Nice, who's taxidermist, and he said there was good movement through that youth season. He took in a lot of deer, but then he said after that youth season was over, it was like the mid-October lull hit, and his phone quit ringing. I've got a feeling that's going to reverse here real quick. If it doesn't this weekend, I think this cold front that's coming this week, today as we record this, it's the 20th. This podcast will be released on Sunday, the 22nd. And, we're getting there at the end of October now, where a cold front now really gets the bucks amped up. And I throw one other thing out. Today I went to lunch with Al Foster and Joe Johnson. And we got done with lunch. We went for a little drive looking at some deer cover. And we actually seen a buck chase a doe across the field. And that he was actually chasing her. I mean, they were half a mile away. A doe busts out of the cover, and right behind her is a buck. and pretty decent buck. Tonight I sit in my stand and I heard bucks grunting twice in the brush. I never could lay eyes on them, and I think it was two different bucks because it was two different directions, unless that same buck slipped around me somehow without me seeing him. So getting some pictures, especially at night on the rope scrapes. So there's some activity at night, but the daylight activity is really, for the mature bucks, is minimal right now.
But like you said, I think depending on the weather in your area, it could turn loose. And extended forecast, what I was looking at just a little bit ago, this could set up for an awesome October 29th, 30th, 31st weekend if this temperature drops. And that's, at least that's what's going to be doing in Illinois. I'm not sure about the rest of the listening area, but that last weekend of October could be absolutely fantastic because we're right on top of when the rut's kicking in. Then that temperature drops. We could see a lot of daylight movement.
Yeah, and I expect to. And there's been a lot of really good bucks killed in October. I think there's always going to be giants. It doesn't matter what condition the herd's in. EHD could, come across the Midwest like it did in 2012, and there's still going to be some giants shot. But overall, if you just look at the numbers of bucks, numbers of, say, 4-year-old and above scoring 150 and above, those numbers are going to be way less, in my guess, than they have been in past years.
Right. So what's your plan for, we were even talking on the phone with my change in my new job. My hunting time is a little bit limited, and I'm even thinking about doing something crazy and driving all the way to Illinois for a Sunday evening sit and then driving back home so I can be at work on Monday. I mean, you can't kill them on the couch. We all know that, but we're going to try to optimize time as best we can and wait till the right before so we know what the weather is to make the call on that. But outside of that, are you going to hunt any mornings between now through the next week if you see something different happen with this weather, or possibly wait till that cold front and that rain moves through, looking at like October 26th through the 30th, somewhere in there? If you see that temp drop, will that be when you make your move and hunt your morning?
Well, I would say towards the end of next week, there's a very good chance that I could hunt a morning or two. It's going to depend on what I'm seeing on my cameras and also the weather, temperature, and that. But the end of next week, we're going to be 27th, 28th
Right.
of October. It's time. If
Right.
you get a cold front during those dates, it's time to sit in the tree.
Well, I only said it because everyone takes us so literal about not hunting October mornings. And, we're getting into that last period of time, the last, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, that if you see that cold front come in and you have the right wind, right conditions, that's the time to really start changing your approach to more of a rut approach, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I used to never hunt an October morning. I've not hunted one yet this year, but I'm changing my mind a little bit of that on that. But really, it's only after about the October 20th and 22nd. It's got to be after that, and it's got to be with a cold front.
Right.
So even the early cold fronts, the first 3 weeks of October, I'm not going to hunt a morning then. But you get in those last few days of October and there's a cold front, then I'm going to be out there.
Right. All right. Well, look forward to hearing that. And we'll see if I do a 5-hour or a 4-hour drive to sit for a 4-hour sit and then a 4-hour drive back home. That's a long 12 hours, but we'll see if we think it's going to be worth it or not. Let's take a quick break and listen to a spot from our friends at Osseo. We're going to come back, talk about NutriCrave corn and it hitting the shelves and getting harvested here this last week. We've had a lot of questions about that, and we might even talk about my new job a little bit. So stay tuned.
Osseo Gear has perfected one of the most innovative camo patterns on the market. The unique camo pattern designed to mimic the feather patterns of one of North America's greatest predators, the great horned owl. Combined with intuitive features, superior comfort, and ultra high quality fabrics give bow hunters the ultimate advantage. Osseo has outfitted over 10,000 bow hunters across the country with over 1,000 5-star reviews. Visit asiogear.com to check it out for yourself. Use code CHASINGGIANTS for 15% off.
All right, everybody, remember, if you want your picture posted and featured on Chasing Giants podcast, you need to send your photo or tag Osseo in your harvest photo. So make sure you get that done. If you want us to feature it on there, Osseo will choose and send those photos to us. We didn't get connected with them this week, so I'm guessing we might have 2 next week to make up for it. But Don, my hunting season, we talked about it last week, is going to be a little bit shorter than most hunting seasons just because of a career change. This week was my first week on the job with Cornerstone Equipment, shifting from the machine tool industry to heavy equipment and material handling dealer. And I'm telling you what, this week was drinking from a fire hose.
Well, I know you had some long days. I didn't bother you. I'd sent you a couple of emails and never got a reply, and I knew what was going on, so I didn't push it at all. I seen a couple posts you made. You sold some skid loaders and some brush mulchers and tree mulchers, whatever you want to call them, forestry heads.
Yep. Yeah, I tell you what, that's probably one of the hottest things out there right now is people getting into business for themselves. We've talked about that on the podcast several times, that now is a perfect opportunity for young people. Doesn't even have to be young people, but people that are motivated to work. There isn't enough people that are willing to work, and met a couple great people at the store this week. And they're starting their journey as a small business owner with some big New Holland equipment. And for those of you who don't know, I made the career change after 28 years. I'm very excited to be working with the same company with my wife. My wife is the accounting controller at the same company, but I only spoke to my wife during business hours one time all week. And that's when
do you ride to work together?
No, we have an office building where all the accounting and HR is. And then I'm usually down at the store or visiting customers. Today was down in Louisville at a trade show that our New Holland product line had some new products that they were displaying. So we went down to see those for the first time. So yeah, I was leaving the house at about 6 or 6:30 all week, and then we would roll in late at night. So I probably talked to my wife less in the last week working at the same company as her than I did before, but I'm excited that together we can be on the management team of this company and do this together. I think that's exciting. But for those of you who don't know, we sell everything from zero-turn mowers to big farm equipment, small farm equipment, and then the core thing that built this company is actually material handling and industrial equipment. So on construction, so forklifts, man lifts, scissor lifts, all the way up to big track hoes, excavators, and payloaders. So if anybody's listening that's interested in equipment or servicing equipment, reach out to me. I'm sure I can give you the Chasing Giants discount. We haven't established what that is yet, but it's end of the year and I'm trying to get rid of inventory. So I'm sure I can come up with something for a listener if they want something.
That's Terry, always a businessman.
I'm always selling, man. What do you think?
Never miss an opportunity. That's a good businessman right there.
I'm not in sales, but I'm always selling. That's what they say. Well, speaking of sales, let's transition over to the other company, and that's Real World Wildlife Products. We've been taking a ton of questions here recently about NutriCrave corn, and you actually got a little bit of a ride in a piece of big farm equipment this last week.
Yeah, I rode in the combine. Our farmer was harvesting the deer corn field, 220 acres of that deer corn. So it has been harvested. We have to dry it down a little bit before it can be bagged or put in even in a bulk bag. It has to be 14% or less moisture. And it was up about 16 and a half. So we had to dry it down a little bit, but I'm expecting that probably this week they will start, packaging that and getting it out the door.
One thing that we didn't know, this is the first year we've grown it to package it. We've always, to this point, been really focused on the testing part of it. and putting lower quantities in test bags, for analysis. But this was our first year in growing it out in a big field like this, and that high oil corn just didn't dry down quite as fast as well. We didn't know. It wasn't that we expected anything. So for those of you who have been asking when this is going to hit the shelves and when it's going to be available, dealer orders that have ordered this, it's going to be going out very soon.
Yeah, and folks, believe me, we're as anxious to get it out the door as you are to get it. And in fact, I'd like to get some on my Ohio properties and see if I can get a big buck hanging around and for late season even. So.
Well, we need to make sure Dwayne and Janice save me a pallet of this stuff for when I come up in November for rut hunting to haul a pallet back. We're going to get it in my feeders here in Kentucky too. So be patient with us. If you're not subscribed to Real World on our social media or our newsletter that you can sign up on our website, make sure you go and follow those or subscribe to it, and you will find out. We will be shouting it from the top of every grain bin through the Midwest that it is available, and get it on the website accordingly. So we appreciate everybody's patience. But yeah, this high oil corn, we can't put it in a bag just for the sake of sales and then have it rot when you guys are storing it in your garage or your shed. Even though it's costing us sales right now, as usual, we're going to do it the right way. And even though it cost us a little bit in sales earlier in October, we're not comfortable with doing it and having it mold.
Yeah, and if anybody wants any, especially any quantity, I would suggest they get it ordered right away, because the demand for this stuff is way bigger than we expected.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on. We're gonna hey, we haven't said teed up or perspective tonight, boys. We're running behind. I bet our boys are getting thirsty, so we're gonna tee up the first question for you.
All right. This one comes from Vincent Trometer. Hope I said your name right, Vincent, from Sioux City, Iowa. Says, Don and Terry, I really enjoy the podcast. Thank you for all the insight you share. With the rut rapidly approaching, I've been planning my strategy to intercept a large buck. I was hoping you would comment on the following strategy I recently heard about. The theory is you push all the does out of the sanctuary in the heat of the rut, so they leave the area only to return bringing back non-local bucks, essentially increasing the number of bucks you can hunt on your property. Your thoughts on this approach is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Terry's laughing.
I'm just gonna sit back and relax. Don's gonna take about the next 15 minutes of the show.
Well, I would like to know who dreams up some of these ideas. This idea does not even, if you really know about deer behavior and deer management, this doesn't even make sense, because if you run all the does off your property, they're not going to go 10 miles. They're not even going to go a mile. They're probably going to go just to the next property over, and then they're probably going to come back at dark or whatever. They may, depending on how bad you spook them, it will impact how long they're going to be gone. But the bucks that they're going to run into are the same bucks they're going to run into if they're on your property. It's not like all these deer recognize property lines and, well, I'm not going over there to Fred's property, but I'm going to work my way around and I'm going to go over to Joe's property. Property lines don't exist in a deer's world. We got to realize that right out of the gate. This is one of the craziest ideas that I've heard in a while. It's not going to happen like that, Vincent. It's just not. You're going to do way more harm to your property and to your chances of shooting a buck during the rut by running around chasing the deer off. And I promise you chase them off, they are not going to just come back. I mean, think about it. You see deer during November, during the rut. Does every doe have a buck following her around? I mean, on any given day, the vast majority of the does are not going to have a buck on their tail. Now bucks are going to wander around. They're going to be looking for does. When they find them, they may chase them around for a little bit, but it's not like they run off and then pick up some crazy buck that just follows her back to some place he's never been before. Research has shown that during the rut, even during extreme hunting pressure, bucks don't leave areas that they're familiar with. They don't go into unfamiliar areas.
I would like to argue it a different way. If that doe is going to leave your property and somehow you time that to when she was in heat to bring a buck back with her, where that buck would be on her tail, that buck is going to continue to run her until he pushes her out in the middle of an isolated area where nothing else is. That's what bucks do. They run them until they push them out into. That's why you see them out in the middle of wide open fields or in a very remote thicket. So they're not gonna. Even if you could time pushing the doe at the right time she was in heat to attract another buck, who's to say where he's gonna push her to is where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know who comes up with these ideas, but
I bet they monetized the video and got a bunch of views though,
and probably made some money. But this is another example that we talk about it quite often about garbage information that people have to sift through. And for someone who's experienced, like you or I, Terry, it's not that big a deal. We can see the garbage from a mile away. But an inexperienced deer hunter, who doesn't have the decades in the woods that we have, this may sound logical to them.
Yeah, they're trying to learn, and unfortunately, about a lot of bad stuff out there.
All right.
So, all right. Well, before we go to the next question, I want to put up a couple slides for you about a couple sponsor announcements that I want you to run through real quick.
Okay, the first one comes from Brenton Firearms. They've got a special discount code for Chasing Giants listeners. The coupon code is actually Chasing Giants, and it's good for $150 off Brenton Firearms. And you can see this picture here. These are high dollar guns. These aren't cheapos. These are well-made precision firearms. If you're interested, the phone number is 517-281-2571. And I want to throw out also that if you happen to own a sporting goods store or something like that, Brenton is looking for some dealers across the country. And talking with Nick, they're not looking for a lot of dealers across the country. I think they're only looking for about 20 across the entire United States. So if you run a business or know of a business that'd be a good fit, this might be a chance to get one of those limited dealerships for Brenton. And again, the number 517-281-2571.
And visit their website because they have a full line of hunting packages, all the way from small caliber to shoot groundhogs, prairie dogs, all the little stuff, all the way up to big calibers. But it also includes 2 choices in that straight wall jacket for Ohio, Illinois, and I'm not sure who else, but maybe Indiana, I believe. But yeah, if you're interested in that, go to visit their website. A lot of really good information there. And then we're going to go to the next one from Quiet Cat.
Yeah, Quiet Cat is offering 40% off. They added another model to that deal that they've been offering to Chasing Giants listeners, not Chasing Giants listeners, to consulting clients, Whitetail Master Academy members, and people that have been to the Whitetail Master class. So if you fit any of those, 40% off. I forget the name of the new model.
Ranger. They just added the Ranger.
And
so we get
the Pioneer.
Yeah, we get people contacting us daily about how certain models don't apply. There is certain models that do not apply as the inventory runs out. This is a limited supply only. They're like other people trying to clear out and getting ready for the new model, I'm assuming. So the stuff that they're wanting to get rid of in hunting season, they're needing to get rid of it now. Once those quantities run out, please don't call and chew me out because they don't have it anymore. This is a limited time only based on quantities. So when you call, they might say it's only a camo version or a solid version. But these 3 models have packages that do apply If you do qualify as a master class, a Whitetail Master Academy, or a consulting client, get with us and we'll put you in touch with them and you guys can work it out from there. So outside of that, we really don't get involved too much. But clarify, we have to quantify that they are truly a qualifying participant.
Mhm.
And from there, you kind of work it out with Quiet Cat.
Yeah, contact Terry or I will give you the discount code. And I've also been giving people the phone number to call with questions.
Yep. They do a really good job of asking you about where you hunt, how you hunt, your body size, height, weight, terrain, to make sure that you get the right package. Don and I don't know enough about all the different models to tell you for sure which one to do or which one to try to purchase. So they do a much better job of working with customers on what would meet your needs and exceed your expectations. So get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with them. So here's the second question of the night.
This one comes from Adam Schmitsky from Glen Carbon, Illinois. It says, hey, Don and Terry, my question is on same time, same place. I got a pick of a buck last year, November 28th, and he blew up this year. Do you think the rut will mess that pattern up this year, or should I be in that area the 27th, 28th, 29th to hopefully harvest that deer? Adam, if that buck is still alive, he's going to be, it's one of the deals where you can't take it that literal during the rut. Now, if he's still alive, he may be off with a hot doe during those 3 days and not exactly where he was last year. But I guarantee you at some point during the rut, he's going to be where you got his picture last year. The rut's kind of the wild card in that same time, same place, because it throws everything off. If a hot doe comes along and that buck forgets what he was intending to do, he's with her for about 36 hours or so. But towards the tail end of the rut, you can pretty much bet that buck at some point is going to be where you got his picture last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's outside of barring he gets shot or there's a hot doe, the theory holds a lot of water. So before we go on to question number 3, we have Don Bailey from a Biofarm segment about a property that was actually consulted on by Wes Delks. So this is a property he put the plan together. We shared the screen of the website, so you'll want to look and listen to this. It's a smaller acreage tract, which is going to keep the price point down a little bit. And again, turnkey. You can close on it and go hunt it the next day. We're going to play that segment and then come back and talk about our land consulting schedule for the rest of the year before we move on to the questions. So stay tuned. Biofarm segment. I have Don Bailey on the line with us. Don, you have a really cool property that has some ties back to Higgins Outdoors and the Dream Team. Let's hear a little bit about it.
Yes, we got 40 acres in Shelby County, Missouri, that the Higgins team helped lay out. I walked the track myself, and honestly, they thought of things that I just simply wouldn't have thought of. But as soon as the owner told me, it made sense. It's going to be online bidding at the auction. It opens November the 1st, and then the bidding closes November the 8th. If you go to our website, all the information is there for the directions and so on and so forth. But if you have any problems at all, be sure to give me a call, Don Bailey, at 618-919-1031, or D. Bailey at Biofarm. Don, Mr. Higgins, it really seemed like a nice property to me. What do you think of it?
Yeah, so this property was consulted on by Wes Delks. And I'm telling you, Wes is at the top of his game as far as setting up properties. He actually, in the last 2 years, each year has done several more properties than I have. In fact, I think both years he's done over 100 properties. I know he did over 100 last winter. But as word's getting out and word spreading about the good job he does and the success that his clients are having, his phone's been ringing off the hook. And I know he's already got 40 or so on the books for this coming winter. So he does a fantastic job. and I'm sure this property is going to produce for the new owner. I know there's some elevated blinds or some ladder stands and a couple of enclosed blinds already on the property. It's got some good bedding cover on the property. It's already established. Just a number of trail camera pictures of decent bucks that are on the BioFarm website. So whoever buys this property, there's not going to be much work to do. It's just going to be come in, plant your food plots, and go hunt.
I was amazed, Don, interrupted you there, but you can hunt it from a lot of directions, with the wind changing. They wrote up some brush where you can physically come in and the deer not see it, and then depending on the wind, they can't smell you. And I'd never thought of that, but they really did a great job.
Yeah, and the fact that this property is 40 acres, it's big enough to hold a mature buck, but it's small enough that it's probably not going to break the bank for somebody to buy this. So, I mean, it ought to appeal to a number of buyers. And I mean, the fact that it's ready to go ought to really appeal to a deer hunter, because the work's pretty much been done. It's just, like I said before, plant your food plots and go hunting.
Yes, I like the food sources around it. And then if you look at our topo map, it shows that it's amidst a funnel of brush line or timber lines running. I think it's from the north to the southeast, and that seems to me like that's always good for deer when you've got something that can move through. And then if you don't pressure them too much, they stay after the crops are harvested. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and there's also plenty of agriculture in that area, so these deer are not starving for good nutrition. There's a lot of ag fields in the area, and when you got that situation, as the crops come out in the fall, the deer are just going to pile into a place like this.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it's basically east of Pike County, Illinois, just a county or two over into Missouri. Seems like that topo, the coordinates and stuff up through there do produce some awful good deer, obviously.
Right. It's not that. I mean, it's northern Missouri. It's not that far from Iowa. I think it doesn't Route 36 go right through northern Missouri and right through Shelby County where this is at.
Yep. So, yeah, it's just straight east of Springfield, Illinois, and then east of Hannibal, Missouri, and then a little bit south. Okay. Mark Twain's birthplace.
Yep.
Well, Don Bailey, like you said, this is an online auction. To get more information or start registering to bid, you need to go to buyfarm.com. The bidding opens on November 1st and it ends on November 8th. And since this is a turnkey property, you could hunt late season on this thing probably if everything went and the closing went smoothly. So I know this is your guys' specialty. If people need to get a hold of you to ask questions or possibly see the property, why don't you give your contact information one more time? And again, go to buyfarm.com and search Shelby County.
Yes, it's Don Bailey at 618-919-1031, or my email is dbailey@buyfarm.com. Yeah, just go to our website, search for Shelby County, Missouri.
All right, Don, thanks for being on the show, and we appreciate the support.
Thanks, you guys.
All right, take care, Don.
Have a good evening. You too, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, we want to thank BioFarm and Don Bailey for being on the show tonight. If you looked at those pictures, or if you're listening on the audio, go to Shelby County and look at this property. The way Wes laid this out, it looks like they've cleared it and made just Donald Trump walls on the border all the way around these food plots. So access is just phenomenal on this little track where you can hunt most sides with most winds. A typical Wes Ducks plan, right?
Wes knows what he's doing. This property's 40 acres, which ought to keep the price down where a lot of people can afford it. And like you said, Terry, buy it, close on it, and go hunt.
Yep.
Work's already done.
Well, let's talk about consulting season a little bit. you're going to be very limited in what you're going to be doing from a land consulting package or schedule. Obviously, because family is going to be a big priority for you and assisting Andrea. She's still going to be dealing with her situation, but I'm changing jobs. So I also have a very limited schedule, and we both have over a half full list already. So, we're kind of at different places with different reasons. If you want to be on the schedule for Don or I, you need to really get a hold of us pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to get to different regions of the country this winter, but probably only once each. So if I go west, say to Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, I'm only making one trip that direction, and it may be in December.
Right.
So if you don't contact me right out of the gate, you're either going to have to wait a year or go with one of the other consultants on the dream team. But I'm actually got more than half of what I want to do this year. I'm kind of telling the new people that are being put on the list that it's basically going to be, you know, as I'm available due to my situation with my daughter. So no guarantees. Now the people that were already on the list, I'm going to do my absolute best to hit all those that I've made that promise to. But from here on out, it's going to be, I should be able to do it, but if something comes up, I may not.
I had a conference call with a guy last night about a property he wants me to come on, and it's within the area I'm willing to travel. And yeah, if you're interested, both Don or I are going to be pretty selective about the property, and the timing and location is going to be important to both of us. It doesn't mean that we're only going to stick to one area, but like you said, if you want to go to Iowa or I want to go down into West Tennessee or something like that, we're only going to have time due to our schedules to make one trip to do it. It's just a little bit tight this year with everything we both have going on. We are going to be going and doing a live event in Shipshewana for that show up there, held by our friends at Tag Out. And then we have a big dealer summit in Real World headquarters, I believe in March, I believe off the top of my head. I should have had that ready, but
Yeah.
if you're a Real World dealer, you're going to be coming in. So right there, we have two of our peak consulting weekends taken away by those two events. So again, if you're interested in doing that, obviously Wes is going to be, going hard at it. His list is already very full. So make sure you communicate as early as possible if you want on that list. If we can't do it, we'll make sure someone from the dream team can covers it and get that Higgins approved plan to you, so you can start working on it early spring or late winter.
Okay, this one comes from Brett Whitsitt from Lewistown, Illinois. He says, hello, Don and Terry. Love your podcast and real world products. I personally planted your NutriCrave corn, your soybeans, plot topper, and harvest salad. My question is more of an argument with Terry. Your comments on broadcasting corn are kind of arrogant and demeaning. I personally broadcasted this corn on 2 farms. My weed control and fertilizer regimen was extensive, and I worked my tail off to make sure it was on point. Just rubbed me wrong that you said it doesn't work when I can guarantee you that it does. It is just a lot of work. That being said, I'll be planting it again next year. Love your products. Thanks, Brett. P.S. My kernel count was 52 by 19. Well, Brett, I want to stick up for my buddy Terry here, because broadcasting corn is not something that we want to promote. And here's the reason. With corn, there's 2 things that are very important when you plant corn. One is kernel spacing. That kernel, each kernel needs the proper spacing around it for that plant to develop and produce a nice ear. The other thing is that kernel needs to be at the right depth, and the right depth is about 2 inches. And it's really hard to go out there and broadcast corn and get it at 2 inches. And I appreciate the fact that you did things right with your herbicide, your fertilizer, and you had a good results. But the fact of the matter is, you're probably not the typical real world customer that's going to be out there broadcasting corn. And I'm going to just throw a number out. I'm going to guess that 95% of customers who would broadcast corn would have very unsatisfactory results doing that. And we want to be as close to 100% with our customer success as we can. And broadcasting corn, while it may work, you're living proof that it can work. Most of the time, with most people, it's just not going to work like that, and they're going to have terrible results. And we don't want that for any of our customers, whether they're planting corn, soybeans, or whatever. We just want to offer advice that's going to help the biggest percentage of our customers have success with whatever crop it is they're trying to grow. Terry, do we just need to move on, or?
If people really listen to this podcast and think that I have an arrogant bone in my body, sorry. I don't know what else to say.
Well,
is what it is.
I wanted to clarify that broadcasting corn can work, but at least 95% of the time there's going to be a poor stand. And the biggest reason, even if you get the kernel spacing right, it's that seed depth. How do you broadcast and get that seed, each seed 2 inches deep? It's just that's a real challenge, and broadcasting is just not a good way to do that.
Okay. Tee up another one. Boys, drink up. I might have me one.
This one comes from Ryan Balsley from Davisville, West Virginia. It says, "Hi, Don and Terry. Thank you both for being such good witnesses for Christ and for setting good examples for all hunters as well as non-hunters. Don, my thoughts and prayers continue to be with your daughter and family. With hunting season upon us, my question is in relation to the strategy that both of you use for tracking and recovering an arrow-hit deer. When you suspect your archery shot placement may have been marginal, but do not have video replay to view the actual impact to confirm whether the shot placement was in fact a marginal shot, what are the steps you typically would take to recover the deer ethically? Do you look for blood immediately around the site of impact and determine how long to wait to track, or perhaps look for your arrow to examine it first? Would you allow a tracking dog service on your property if it was legal in your state? I look forward to listening to your thoughts in regards to this subject. God bless, Ryan."
This is a great question and perfect time of the year, actually.
And that's exactly why I chose it, because you know, a lot of people are going to be taking their rut vacations here real soon. There's going to be a lot of our listeners shooting deer and maybe having situations they've never dealt with before. And my goal would be that each person listening to this recovers every deer that they shoot. And we want to help with that as much as possible. And I think first of all, it all starts with shot selection. You know, one thing that really disgusts me about outdoor TV, some of the videos you see on YouTube or wherever, is some of the shot selection is so unethical. I'll just call it what it is. It's unethical, some of these shots. And I'm not just talking about the angle. I'm even talking about the yardage. And I'm telling you, if you guys will keep your shots close and at good angles, you're going to lose very few deer. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but you're going to cut it way, way down. So it actually recovering your deer starts with shot selection. Get them close, get them at a good angle. When you do shoot a deer, my rule for decades really has been, especially on an afternoon hunt, you know, when it's starting to get dark, if I don't see the deer go down, I come back in the morning. I let the deer, even if I think I've made a perfect hit, if I don't see that deer go down, I back out and come back in the morning, because the odds are he didn't go far. He's going to lay down and die in his first bed or real close to it. If you jump that deer from his first bed, your odds of killing him or your odds of recovering him are way less than if you just back out and give him plenty of time. So afternoon hunts, if I don't see him fall, I come back the next morning. And people talk about coyotes. Well, coyotes can be a problem. I'll tell you what, I have never had a coyote consume a deer. Now I've had them, chew on them a little bit, but I've never had them just totally devour one. I know it happens, so I'm not saying it never happens, but the odds are that it's not going to happen just overnight in the first night.
Would you rather have the bud eaten out of your buck and not find it, or not find it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's the two choices.
Yeah, your two choices are you show up there the next morning and maybe you have some eye socket damage or something. So worst case scenario, you have to find another cape.
Yep.
Or would you rather that happen than not find the deer?
And on a morning hunt, it's unless I see the deer fall. If I think I made a perfect hit, but the deer runs in the brush and I can't see it, I'm waiting at least an hour. And if it's a bad hit, if I think I've hit the deer too far back, maybe in the liver or whatever, no, I don't go look for my arrow. I don't go check what kind of blood it is. If I'm pretty certain the hit is not, right there in the heart and lung area, then I'm backing out and I'm probably coming back at after lunch.
Right.
I'm coming back with some help, having lunch, and then looking for it in the afternoon. Give that deer time to expire. And then you ask about tracking dogs. Would I allow a tracking dog on my property? Absolutely. I would do anything legal to. I'm not sure that's legal in Illinois. Actually, I think I've seen something about it not being legal to use drones to recover deer in Illinois, but dogs are legal. I have used dogs. Ron Slifer and his late bloodhound Dio, who passed away about a year or so ago, helped me find Trump, the buck I shot. I called Trump. So I absolutely would use a dog to recover a deer.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about after the shot, and our goal, the dream thing would be is if you shoot something and it runs 60 yards away and piles up and everybody can celebrate and have a good time. What I think especially inexperienced hunters are guilty of is when we're hunting up against, say we're on the downwind side of a bedding area and we make a shot, that deer is out of sight, but we all of a sudden jump on our cell phone or turn around and do Stan Potts type footage, jumping up and down in the tree stand, making an idiot of ourselves so we can get some great video footage. Or we get down out of the tree immediately to rush over to our arrow. The thing that might be happening in that situation is that deer doesn't know what just happened. If we hit that deer, it's going to take off. And at a certain point, that deer's going to stop. And if he's wounded and not, a fatal hit, he could turn around and turn back and look and say, what in the world's going on? And if he sees some blob up inside of a tree bouncing around, jumping around, or climbing down to go looking for his arrow, again, the likelihood of you finding that deer is much less. So staying put, staying quiet after the shot is, I think, something that I haven't personally heard a lot of people talk about. But if you're unsure, if you're in the wide open and the deer goes a direction and there's no way he can see you, that's a different story. But it's a game time decision based on the cover that's around you. But I've personally never heard many people, if you're hunting in one of those situations and that deer goes into cover and you can't see him, don't assume he's not watching you for a period of time. Staying still, staying quiet. It's okay to text your buddies and say, I got one down, but stay put for a little bit, listen, glass. Take your binoculars out and just start glassing where he went in. When the coast is clear, get out. I don't have a problem necessarily going over to my arrow if it's close. Where I have a problem going over to my arrow is if I took one of those stupid 60, 70 yard shots with my arrow and maybe bumping the deer. But, going and looking at your arrow, I do like to use an arrow either with some white fletching, a white wrap, or something that's white so I can see the color of blood, how many air bubbles are in it. I think you can see a little bit from that maybe you don't have when you're videoing. Okay, well, here's question number 5.
This one comes from Eli Yoder from Fresno, Ohio. Says, hello, Don. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on planting bamboo in a grown-up weed field for bedding cover. I can't remember hearing you talk about this yet. Thanks and God bless. Well, Eli, I think it's a terrible idea because bamboo can be invasive. Why not plant miscanthus, which is not invasive? I just, bamboo is from Asia, China to be specific, although it's probably throughout Asia. And it's one that will just become very invasive. So I'm just not big on the exotics. I think there's some of them that have their place. We did the video on all the exotic plants, and exotic is something that is not native, and the list is long. So there's a lot of good ones. Bamboo is not one of the good ones. Bamboo is one that can become invasive. So never want to recommend that.
After what I see it does in Japan on the mountainsides when you're riding down the interstate where it takes over acres and acres and acres, without sounding arrogant, I would recommend people not do that technique. I never said I wasn't a smart aleck. I might not be arrogant, but I'm definitely a smart aleck.
Okay, the next one comes from Carter Lang from Blue Mounds, Wisconsin. He says, Dear Don and Terry, I was recently listening to another Habitat podcast. They were talking about bumping deer. They said they could strategically bump deer so they are further away from their neighbors and closer to the center of their properties during the hunting season. The farms they are hunting are 60 with 120 acres. Do you think this would be a good tactic, or are they just trying to get clicks like you and Terry are always talking about? Thanks for everything you guys do. God bless. Carter, I should have put your question back to back with the other one on chasing your does away so they drag bucks back home with them. This is a absolutely ridiculous idea. Why anyone would want to bump deer on their property is beyond me. Now, if you was talking a property of 500 to 1,000 acres or more, then maybe you would put some pressure around the edge of your property to push them into the heart. And I don't even know if I would do that, but you're talking 60 to 100 acre properties. No way. That's plumb ridiculous.
What's that one theory called? Bump and dump or something like that? What do they call that?
Yeah.
I've seen you take a dump, but I've never seen you take a bump.
You're not going to either. And I don't think you've seen me take a dump.
I've seen you get out of a 360 blind and run to the house. That's close enough.
That's not exactly seeing me take a dump. If you're going to tee things up, Terry, you're going to have to give the right perspective here. I don't know who comes up with some of this stuff. And some of it may sound good in theory, but folks, the key to killing big deer, especially consistently, is you have to hunt unpressured deer. If you pressure your deer, they become 5 times, not twice as hard to kill. They become 5 times harder to kill. Why in the world anybody would want to put pressure on their property is beyond me.
I think it goes down to, some people having the patience to sit there versus some people that are not patient enough and think they have to make something happen. In turkey hunting, you can go make something happen. You can chase these birds all over the place, and fishing, you can try to move to a different place in the lake and throw a different lure. Hunting mature bucks, you really just can't make anything happen. You just have to be disciplined and stay almost away more than you're there. And some people, I think, have a hard time with it. I think they look for ways to make something happen.
Well, I think most hunters do not fully recognize how much different a mature buck is, even from the rest of the deer herd. It's one thing to compare deer to turkeys, but just compare a mature buck to the rest of the deer herd, and they are so much different that they require a different approach, a different set of rules almost to consistently kill them.
So you don't recommend the bump and dump?
No. Nope. Go home and take your dump and put no pressure on your property.
We should make a thumbnail of some sort about that for the YouTube video. What do you think?
Well, they got those little turd emojis, so maybe you can use that.
It's going downhill quick. For all of the never mind. We'll just leave it at that. What I guess we got to decide here in the next couple of days what we're doing. Kentucky muzzleloader is this weekend, and with the temp drops here, it would not surprise me if some good bucks are killed. I know of a couple people that are already starting their out-of-state hunting adventures. Brandon Epperson, our good friend that shot a buck early season in Kentucky, stopped by the house. I loaned him my Quiet Cat to go up and hunt a specific property in Ohio this weekend. So hope he has some success. And you're going to be hunting in Illinois. I got my kids an event for my kids this Saturday, so there's no hunting for me. But Sunday we'll have to figure out whether I'm hunting in Kentucky or Illinois.
Yep.
We'll see.
I about got all my fall projects wrapped up around the farm, and I'm ready to start hitting it hard this week. I've been going pretty much about every afternoon anyway, but I'm going to get real serious about it. I've kind of neglected some trail cameras in some certain areas that I'm going to go check, including Iowa. I need to get to Iowa to check my cameras over there, and maybe I want to put at least 2 more out over there, just to monitor that farm during the rut in the late season to see what survives. But I'm ready to hit it hard. So this cold front that's coming this week, I'm ready.
Yep. All right. Well, sounds great. We hope everybody has a good end of October. Play it safe, play it smart, and when the conditions are right, go hard, right? This is why we've stayed out to this point. We've worked and done all of this work. When the conditions are right from this point forward, be ready to start going after it.
And when you're in the woods, don't take a dump and don't go bump.
Good grief. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
God bless everybody. Have a great week.
Chasing Giants has been brought to you by Osseo Camo, Via Farm Real Estate Company, 360 Hunting Blinds, Victory Chevrolet, Real World Wildlife Products, Matthews Archery, Novix Tree Stands, Gingerich Tree Farm, WildlifeFarming.com, Quiet Cat, and Vortex Optics. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode of Chasing Giants.